Right. Greetings. Is everybody in? Is everybody working? Everybody looking good?
We are here from the COVID-infected house.
Yes. COVID-infected. Tyler is indeed. We're all hoping that he will not be able to join today.
We're plowing.
But here he is. Stally Mike down there in the corner, looking like the Stally human that he is. And then we have a very special guest on the podcast today, Samuel Smith. We are very happy and excited that your groin has entered the chat. So we have a fun-packed episode today.
Be here.
Oh, sorry, Sam. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. Have your moment.
No. It's all right. I don't need to talk.
Okay, beautiful. Well, anyway, we are very excited to have Sam on the podcast today. We have a fun-packed episode. Again, our views continue to grow, and our following and our fans, so to speak. I don't know if they're fans, but maybe continue to grow. So we have a very special episode lined up as well next week. So we continue to build off of our success. So thank you, subscribe, follow, and do the whole thing. But anyway, so the Packers season's gone. That was fun while it lasted. A pretty exciting game, though, to our surprise. The Packers, they hung in it till the very end, overmatched in every way. The Eagles' offense is very scary, and I think that they will be for a lot of teams.
Max, do you still think they're overrated?
I mean, I don't think that I think that they are overrated. I think the Packers are bad. And I think that they just add to their list of bad teams that they've played this year. I mean, what I'll say is that the Packers defense had one of the worst performances I've ever seen in my life as a human being watching football, which I've been watching for about, I don't know. You can't really count the first 5 years of your life, can you? I don't know. I guess for the last 15 years of my life, 16, 17 years of my life.
Close to 400 rushing yards is literally one of the worst performances of anything in the entire history of the world.
It was disgusting. There were a lot of positives to take from the game as well as some obvious glaring negatives. But I just wanted to go around. Everybody can have their moment in talking, but I want to start with our guest of honor, Double S, Samuel Smith. Sam, what was your biggest takeaway and initial thoughts on the Packers season effectively ending on Sunday?
Well, I'll tell you, it was a roller coaster of emotions for me, just as every Packer game has been this year. But at the end of the day, I wanted to think that we played well with Jordan Love coming in there and absolutely lighting it up. It feels weird to have confidence in a 4-8 team at the end of the day. But then you remember that we gave up 40 points and those however many rushing yards the Eagles ended up with. And it's quite sad. The 1 year defense was supposed to, get us to that next level. They're turning into the
Yeah. And I mean, ultimately, I think there's a lot of blame that can go around as well on the defensive side of the ball. But I mean, what a train wreck. What an absolute train wreck. But yes.
Just cut everyone, restart, keep Jordan Love, keep Christian Watson, maybe Bakhtiari. Cut everyone off.
Tyler, we'll pass right back into you. We'll pass right into you. What are your thoughts?
Right now, I think just cut everyone, including Rodgers. Get rid of all the coaches. Get rid of everyone. Except, like I said. But no, for real, I mean, season's over. We've talked about this before. It's time to move on, put Rodgers on the IR, put Jordan Love in, see what he can do, see if there's some excitement for him for the upcoming years, and maybe try to pitch a trade to get rid of Rodgers next year, get rid of that god-awful $50 million contract because he literally is holding us back. We lost our guest of honor. We have lost our guest of honor.
Sam just dropped. Sam just dropped.
Well, we are going to keep this rolling because we have to. But, yeah, it's time for Jordan Love. He looks solid. He was making really good throws. Everything honestly looked real nice with him. It's exciting. Like I said, he's going to be better than both Favre and Rodgers combined. So we'll see what happens. Mike?
Yeah, Ty, that's interesting you mentioned that. So Aaron Rodgers gets like his first start or like he comes in relief year 3 against the NFC East division leader in week 11 or 12.
So very
Jordan Love comes in his third season behind Rodgers in week 12 against the NFC East division leader.
Very
I'm
similar.
I'm sensing something.
There's too many similar things for Love to not be better than all of them combined. So,
You know, it is really interesting though. Like Jordan Love, I mean, you can't deem him as like good or bad or indifferent after this game. But I'll tell you what, you can see talent, right? If you were to go in there and pull a Nathan Peterman and throw 2 picks and have a bunch of ducks that he's throwing out there and look like he's garbage, that's one thing. I'm not saying you can go out there and dictate that he's the next Aaron Rodgers based off of that performance, but, you know, he looked good. The ball was jumping off of his hand. He was delivering the ball on time. He looked decisive. He looked confident in a hostile environment in a reachable game. And I think that those are all things. He looked like a different quarterback than the guy that was in there when he got thrown in there against Kansas City and thrown in there against Detroit at the end of last year. He looks like a different quarterback. And that's stuff that you can't that's stuff that you can just tell that when you have talent, that stuff shows. If he didn't, we'd be in some serious trouble. But you gotta let the man play. So I know we talked about this last week. The season's over, right? Rodgers clearly wants to play. What was said at the end of – not mathematically, but it's over, right? We have I think I saw like a less than a 2% chance to be able to make it to the postseason.
Yeah, it's over.
But I'm going to pass this over to you again too, Sam. But at the end of the game, Rodgers was interviewed, right? And of course they're going to bait him and ask him this question. How are you feeling? What's going on? If you can play, are you planning on getting shut down for the rest of the season? And his answer, of course, if I'm healthy, I'm playing. Everybody in the entire world knew that Aaron Rodgers was going to react this way. The season's done. And the right thing for the organization is to let Jordan Love play the rest of the year. That is the right thing for the organization, to see what you have in your future. Will the Packers do that? I don't know. But Sam, thoughts?
Yeah, it's a really sticky situation that we found ourselves in here, and I'm not a fan of it at all. Because you're right. I do believe the right thing for the organization is to sit Rodgers down, toss him on the IR, put whatever injury he may have as the reason, and see what we have in Jordan Love. I'm going to disagree with you. I think you can say that Jordan Love is good after that one game. He looked, I don't know, he had 9 attempts. He was 6 of 9. 2 of those incompletions were drops. He should have been 8 of 9. And he looked
And
calm,
what was the defensive
cool,
pass
collected.
interference?
Exactly. There you go. He looked calm, cool, and collected on every drop back that he had, which I was excited to see. Which, again, I'm coming back to this. Like, I feel silly having confidence as we're sitting here at 4-8, and the season is effectively over. But I don't know. The organization has got to show some big nuts coming up here soon. Mike, you know a little bit about that. But
yeah, Mike knows about some big
Rodgers
nuts.
needs to sit. He needs to sit down.
I agree. And
quits, huh?
Tyler and Michael can both attest to this, and I think you can as well, Sam. But I've had some bad takes on this podcast, sprinkled in with a couple good ones. But I have said from the
Miami
start,
Dolphins being the worst team in the league.
I have said from the start, not even before this podcast, when we drafted Aaron Rodgers, Tyler, back when we were having that watch party back in 2020, that I thought that Jordan Love is going to be really, really good in this league. I have said that from the start. Tyler, am I wrong? Michael,
No,
am I lying on that?
He has. It still doesn't negate the fact that he thought the Dolphins were the worst team in the league.
That was a really bad take. That was a bad take. I thought Tua was bad. But anyway, Sam, I think that you bring up a ton of good points. But Mike, thoughts? What are your thoughts here on the rest of the way?
Yeah, one, I'm going to get back to the Rodgers thing. I see a nice bright spot. Why did we not put in at all Keyshawn Nixon to be our special teams kickoff return?
Yeah, how about that? How about that?
It's been a long time since we've seen success on that.
He's a hard hitter, too, out there on defense, and he just absolutely – I mean, his return game is unbelievable.
The first, kick return of the game, I think he, bobbled the ball at one point. I'm like, what the hell are we doing with this guy? But he ended up having a decent return, and he did it consistently. So props to Keyshawn. Round of applause. Glad we have a nice return guy. Second, I know our take was we want to play Aaron Rodgers until we're mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. And I'm going to stick with that take. Rodgers stuck it with those injuries. I know he's day-to-day on his ribs. Ribs are a tough injury to bounce back after one.
Painful, every movement.
Yeah, which is very tough. But I'll be honest, on Sunday against the Bears, if Rodgers is good to go, I'm going to go with Rodgers. That's what Matt LaFleur says. If Rodgers is good to go, they're going to go with him. We will see time for Jordan Love. He's going to get at least a couple games later this season. But I'm going to stick with it. If we're not mathematically eliminated, I say we still play our 4-time MVP quarterback if he's healthy enough. So.
One thing I agree with you, Michael, to an extent. And, I do think that Rodgers gives you the best chance of winning right now, obviously. I mean, he's coming off 2-time back-to-back MVP seasons. And watching Rodgers play, he doesn't look like he doesn't have it anymore. You know what I mean? Like, he looks like some injuries have affected him, but, game in and game out, he's still making unbelievable throws. He still's got pop on his throw. He's still getting out of the pocket. He can still move around. It's not like he's starting to look like how Tom Brady looks right now or how, like, Peyton Manning started to look at the end of his career. He doesn't look like that. He still looks good.
Yeah.
Am I off on that?
The eye test. He still passes the eye test.
I mean, he doesn't look like he's looking like Grandpa Aaron out there. He looks fine. He looks
Grandpa
mobile. He
Roethlisberger?
looks. Yeah, he's not looking incompetent. Can we all agree? Can we all agree on that?
We're not very good.
Yeah. Well, I would ultimately say too, Michael. I think you make a good point about that. I mean, I agree with what you're saying. The thing that concerns me about your statement is I feel like there's got to be some balls somewhere in this organization where you got to pull the plug at some point, Aaron, because I think that there's a chance that we have some pretty bad teams that we're playing coming up. And I'm just worried. And then our toughest game remaining on our schedule is Minnesota, and they'll have nothing to play for, arguably, at that point. So my biggest fear is that we are mathematically not eliminated until, like, the last game. So I think there's ultimately that point where it's like, do we have enough talent to actually be a Super Bowl contending team at this point? Or are we kind of realizing that we just gave up 400 yards of offense strictly running the ball to a team? And
I don't know if that's the case. I think we're going to go in and give a stomping to the Bears next weekend. And I think that can be a good note that Rodgers can kind of go out on. I think we're going to get that win. But then we go into a bye. And I'm pretty certain that after that bye, if a couple of teams get a win, we'll be mathematically eliminated. So I think that is the ideal scenario. Is we give Rodgers his one last hurrah. And, there's a chance it could be the last time we see Aaron put on the Packers uniform. That would be sad, but also maybe it's time. But I don't know. I think we missed the window to trade him, so he'd have to opt out of the contract at this point. I don't know if a trade is happening.
I agree. I mean, it's tough. I could see a team that has a pretty big ego, a team maybe like the Colts, that they want to compete and they see that Rodgers has still got talent and Jim Irsay's just like, fuck it, I'll take on the
reunite Aaron Rodgers and Jeff Saturday. I love it.
There we go. Tyler, any last thoughts before we close down our talk on the Pack?
I got nothing else on the Packers. Interesting though, Jeff Saturday. Did you guys see his press conference yesterday? I thought it was really funny, like the whole game management at the end of the game yesterday. Like Matt Ryan ran for some yards, and then they didn't call timeout, and they hit 3 timeouts, and there's 30 seconds left. They asked him after the game, like, "Hey, Jeff, what was going on there at the end of the game?" He's like, "Oh yeah, time really wasn't of the essence. It was just that we didn't execute on our plays." I think he was just kind of a little overwhelmed in his coaching position. I mean, the dude straight up came off as an ESPN analyst and has never really coached. He's a leader of men, but I think this is a situation where he was a little bit overwhelmed and didn't necessarily know what to do. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could lead us right into our next segment here about talking about overperforming and underperforming teams. First and foremost, I guess I'll just start right away with my first underperforming team. Let's just kick it off with the Colts. The Colts, they had a lot of high expectations going into the year in a division that, a lot of people thought was going to be very competitive, sitting over there in the AFC. But, I'd say that the Colts, from top to bottom, have underperformed. Their defense has underperformed. Their quarterback play is just a disaster. They need to figure something out that's a little bit more solid. I just think the uncontinuous knowledge of who's going to be in at quarterback from a week to week is frustrating for the team. Jonathan Taylor has underperformed. Their offensive line has underperformed. Obviously their coach got fired in the middle of the season. I think a lot of people had expectations that the Colts were going to be a true playoff contender. And they just fell flat on their face. And here they are in some awkward situation, having Jeff Saturday, who has no business being a head coach, as a head coach. And here the Colts are just losing to the abysmal, horrible Pittsburgh Steelers team.
Hey, the Steelers looked good yesterday, like legit. I think the Steelers are on the big upswing.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'm going to kick it off with the Colts as an underperforming. So, yeah, all right. And I'll pass it off to Ty.
Yeah, sure. I got a couple. I'll rip off two right away. It's got to be mentioned. The Super Bowl champs of last year, Los Angeles Rams at 3-8. Absolutely disgusting. Obviously, they've been plagued by injuries.
Horrible.
Cooper Kupp going down. They just lost Allen Robinson for the year, I think, to ankle surgery. Matthew Stafford's been in and out with concussion protocol. I mean, the Rams are just an absolute disaster. Their season's over, 3-8 right now. I don't know what's going on. I mean, yeah, it's a mix of like injuries and like just poor
similar
play.
to the Packers, I think.
Realistically, when they were healthy, they were still sucking too. So I think the Rams got to be at the top, near the top of the list for underperforming teams. Another one, obviously, I think that has to be mentioned. We'll stick in the NFC are the Buccaneers. Buccaneers sitting at 5-6, somehow at the top of the division in the NFC South. I mean, that division: Buccaneers 5-6, Falcons 5-7, Panthers 4-8, Saints 4-8. I mean, it's a tight race, but my God, it's disgusting. Buccaneers. I mean, Brady's looking old. Grandpa Brady is out. I don't know. Buccaneers. Todd Bowles ain't it. I think he's going to be a one and done head coach once again. And you guys got any thoughts on the Buccaneers right now?
Or your disappointing teams? Go ahead, Sammy.
Man, well, it's frustrating to see the Buccaneers sitting there with a losing record, on track to win their division. Tom Brady's going to be hosting a playoff game. He'll be facing off against Geno Smith and Kirk Cousins in the playoffs. Like,
beat them.
The man's going to go to another Super Bowl, and it's frustrating to see. So I got my fingers crossed that the Falcons can figure something out here and squeak their way in, but I don't have much faith that that's going to be what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But Sammy, just hit it right away.
Yeah, my underperforming team has to be the Broncos. I don't know. I think it's fairly obvious that the expectations were far higher than what they've performed up to this year. They've had some coaching issues. Russell Wilson hasn't helped anybody out. And I think back, got to draw everything back to the Packers, right? There's all this chatter about what if the Packers traded Aaron Rodgers to the Broncos in the offseason. I think you play that scenario back. If that happens, I'd argue that both the Packers and the Broncos have a winning record at this point in the season. I think Jordan Love steps up, plays some good football. I think Nathaniel Hackett having Aaron Rodgers in Denver totally changes the situation down there because their defense has been good as anybody's. Then you wonder, like, the Broncos. The Broncos.
I was going to say, whoa.
No. I'm not getting that far ahead of myself. Yeah, I don't know. And then you look back, and that's the little things. Does Javonte Williams get hurt? Does Tim Patrick get hurt if all these things change? Probably not. I think you're seeing the Packers-Broncos Super Bowl. So Broncos absolutely underperforming.
Whoa, yeah, Packers Super Bowl with Jordan Love.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be a lot. Wow.
I second that. Stally,
underperforming team, I'm
Yeah, give
going to
us one.
say the Raiders coming in. I believe the Raiders are 4-7, and they just beat the Seahawks in overtime last week. On paper, you see Derek Carr. He's an okay average quarterback. You have Devontae Adams. You have Josh Jacobs, and it's just they find ways to lose games.
Oh yeah.
They've had so many games within one score or one possessions to win the game, and they end up just dropping it somehow. I'm not really sure what Josh McDaniels is doing, but yeah, 4-7, underwhelming. And it's like you take a look at their last game, Josh Jacobs, an absolute beast. I think he had
300 yards.
Almost 300 all-purpose yards.
Over 300.
This team doesn't win games. I don't know, but they're underperforming.
Yeah.
Should we go to overperforming, or do we?
Let's hit up. Let's do that. Let's hit up overperforming teams. I'm gonna say right off the bat, I absolutely am a ginormous fan of the good old New York Jets. I think the Jets are really, really good, and I was listening to Richard Sherman talk on his podcast this week.
Cool.
And he said something really funny. Cool. He was talking about the narrative of potential, and like what does the narrative of potential really mean, right? You look at a guy like Zach Wilson, right? Everybody's like, oh my God, potential. This guy's got so much potential, and they picked him with the number 2 overall pick in the draft. And then you look at a guy like Mike White, who's now stepped in multiple times for the Jets and has had unbelievable performances. I'm not saying Mike White is the next Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, but maybe if the narrative was flipped on Zach Wilson and Mike White, maybe people would think that Mike White would be a superstar in this league. You know what I mean? Because if people lean so heavy on the potential, why would you put Zach Wilson back in the game? Why would you put him in next game?
One of the worst draft picks, Zach Wilson over Justin Fields.
Why would you do it? Why would you put him in next week? Why would you put him back in when Mike White just did what he did? Mike White gives you a better chance to win games now. If the Jets' defense is this good, and if their team has this much potential, Mike White gives you the best chance to win. Play him week in and week out until he can. That's the way I look at it. Zach Wilson has been horrible. He's hardly had a good game in this league yet.
Yeah, his accuracy is just horrendous. He seems like a terrible teammate. I mean, he just pouts on the sideline. He takes no accountability. But I do have breaking groin. I just got a text from Adam Schefter once again. Rodgers told me that his rib scans are looking good and he's going to be good for next week.
Whoa. Wow. You and Shefty, man. I wish I had a relationship.
Schefter always sends me the immediate results. That's why I'm glad I always get a breaking groin every episode. But yeah, Mike White. Going back to Mike White, I think he is for sure the definite starter, maybe even the future franchise quarterback for the Jets. But now that I'm talking, I'll say my overperforming team. We're going to stay in the state of New York, the New York Football Giants. No one expected Daniel Jones to lead them to where they are today. I mean, being 7-4, somehow still third in their division at 7-4, which is just crazy for the NFC East to be that good. A stat that I thought was very interesting. Where would you guys think they would rank in terms of points scored for the rest of the NFC? Like top 5, bottom 5, middle of the pack? Where would you guys guess?
I want to say they're down in the below 10, like lower 10. They don't score points, but they just win games.
Yep. Sam, Max, what would you guys guess?
I mean, just the fact that you're bringing it up leads me to believe they're probably bottom 3. But before this, if I would have just been randomly asked, I probably would have guessed middle of pack.
Yeah, but
Number one.
The Rams are the worst in the NFC, not even close at 178 points scored, which is disgusting. But the second worst are the Giants, somehow still at 7-4 with 225 points. That is
That's
disgusting.
quite the gap between
How
last and second last.
how are the Giants 7-4? Like, I do not understand it. Their defense, like, they still have let up a good amount of points on defense too. So
I'm telling you, teams that end up being like that, you can tell a similar story with the Vikings. I think the Vikings are a pretty good team this year. I mean, they've had some quality wins, but some teams just have some seasons are just their seasons. They have a little bit of luck. I think there's a little bit of luck in all sports, and I think the Giants being 7-4 is a little bit of luck.
when you have a guy like Danny Dimes, you're going to win games.
Okay. Yeah. Who hasn't gone yet for overperforming?
I'll go ahead here. Part of me wants to just top right off Ty and say that the entire NFC East is overperforming.
I like that.
Think about 2 years ago, if someone would have told you the NFC East is all over 500, I think the Commanders are 7-5 in last place. Yeah. I would have told you were crazy. The Cowboys at 10-1, or excuse me, the Eagles at 10-1 is sickening. The Cowboys at 8-3 is even more sickening. It's pathetic. But part of me is just hoping for the downfall of the Cowboys here over the next 4 weeks, and if they can slip out of the playoffs, I think it'd be miraculous. No one likes seeing the Cowboys win. So NFC East / Dallas Cowboys are my overperforming teams.
I completely agree with that. That's a good point, Sam.
Yeah. I think that I don't know. Has Mike gone? Mike, have you gone yet with overperforming?
No.
Mike,
I got to go with the Minnesota Vikings.
Yep, that's what I was thinking.
They're still frauds in my book, even though they played really well on Thanksgiving. Kirk Cousins looked great in prime time, which was shocking. They're always going to be frauds to me until they hoist that Lombardi trophy. So
I agree with you,
They're
Michael.
barely over the threshold for points scored versus points allowed. 262 points scored, 257 points allowed. Like,
wow.
To have that kind of point differential and to be 9-2 has got to be the luckiest team of all time, like legitimately.
That's a real stat. They're only +5 on points for the season.
+5 point differential right now.
Sam, they were -2 going into the game against the Patriots.
I wish I would have been more aware of this.
Yeah,
I got too many Vikings fans to count, or friends
the
that are fans to count. And
the Vikings are absolute frauds. They are going to lose whether they get the first round bye or the first round. If they do play in the first round, they're going out immediately.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, I would say my last take on this is overperforming teams. I'm going to also go with the Dolphins. Just
because of your take, right?
Just because of my take,
Ridiculous.
number one, and number two. I read this thing that Tua was looking at himself in the mirror and looking at his confidence level going into the year and thinking that he didn't know if he was good enough. And Coach Mike McDaniels put together a 700-play highlight and played it for Tua, showing him how good he is. And Tua said that changed his entire mantra in the NFL. It's all over, everywhere. I mean, just look it up.
When did Mike McDaniels do that? I'm curious.
I think before the season.
Off season, I believe.
No, exactly. Off season.
Mike McDaniels is such an interesting guy. I really, really like him.
Yeah. I mean, leaning on coaches, that's a good segue. Let's talk about coaches on the hot seat.
Sure.
Coaches
that we think should be fired.
Yeah, coaches we think should be fired. We all got our coaches that we're talking about today. We're only sticking with those 4 coaches because we are on a time crunch. But, Sam, start us. What's your coach and why?
First and foremost, going to pop in an honorable mention here. We're going to stray away from the NFL, and Greg Popovich is officially on the hot seat. Not because he's going to get fired. He's simply going to retire at the end of the year. He's had enough. The Spurs are terrible. He's like 75 or something like that.
Cool.
He's gonna fire himself and call it a career, an amazing career at that. But unfortunately for Pop, he's going out not on the greatest of notes.
Not in style.
NFL wise though, it's got to be Josh McDaniels. As Mike was sharing, the Raiders are just a bad football team. And McDaniels comes over from the Patriots leading that unbelievable defense for however many years it was. And the Raiders defense is one of the worst in the league. So if that was the big draw, it's an absolute failure. I can't imagine he sticks around after this year. You look at the skill on offense with Devontae and Josh Jacobs somehow being the best running back in the league. Derek Carr is, he's not great, but he can get the job done.
A Hall of Famer to Devontae.
Absolutely Hall of Famer. Yeah. So yeah, Josh McDaniels, the head coaching gig, not working out for him, and we'll see where he might end up, but I can't imagine.
We'll know where he'll go. We will know exactly where he's going to go back. He's going to go crawling back to good old Bill, Uncle Bill.
The Patriots defense has stayed that good without him, so just proving yet again.
He was OC.
He was the offensive coordinator.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant. Totally what I meant.
Even worse.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with our boy Nathaniel Hackett. I've talked about him earlier.
He's got to be number one for coaches.
He's got to be number one. What a train wreck. He is a train wreck. The Broncos have no idea what's going on. They have guys running wrong routes. They don't even know where they are every Sunday, I don't think. No, I have never seen a guy
where are we
come
playing
in
this week, Coach? Oh, I'm not sure.
I have never seen a head coach come into such a ready-to-go team and make them so bad. The Broncos had everything minus a quarterback. They replaced their quarterback with Russell Wilson, and they are 10 times worse, 15 times worse. They're terrible. Nathaniel Hackett has done one of the worst jobs of a head coach that I have ever seen. I cannot believe how bad he is and how coveted that job was because the Broncos were such a ready-to-go team. The Denver Broncos, before they played on Sunday, would have been 9-1 if they scored 18 points every game. Think about that. Russell Wilson's got more bathrooms in his house than he does wins.
Jesus.
Or touchdowns, I mean.
How many touchdowns does he have?
9.
And wins.
Jeez.
It is a disaster. There's a part of me that loves Russell Wilson still as that Wisconsin quarterback. And, I think that he is a good guy. I think he's weird. I think he's quirky. But
he means well.
People loved him in Seattle. And, now there's this narrative about him. I think that he's in a bad situation that's not good for him. I don't think it's good for the Broncos. I don't think it's good for Hackett. I think Hackett has made him look so bad. I think that when you have a really bad scheme and when you think that you know more than you do from an offensive standpoint and you tear it all down to put in all your own stuff, it either works or it doesn't, and it's clearly not working out for Denver. I think Hackett is clearly gone. It's written on the wall. So unfortunate for him. I'd be hard-pressed to see if he gets another even coaching job in the NFL. He is a
no. He might not even get another straight up job.
No, I don't think so.
Some high school.
He might not even be able to work at. He might not even be able to work at a local car wash.
He's gonna be shut.
That's for sure.
Definitely not. Definitely not local. Not in Denver. I can tell you that. They want his head on a stick. All right, Gutskers.
All right, Gutskers. I guess that's a new one. I'm gonna go with Arizona Cardinals and Cliff Kingsbury. He was supposed to, be out of college, the quarterback whisperer, the offensive guru, the spread offense, all that shit. He made the deciding factor to go out and draft Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray obviously is a very good quarterback. They signed him to a $230.5 million contract. So obviously Kyler Murray is their future.
Is he a really good quarterback?
I think he is. It's up for debate. I still think he's a top 8 quarterback. But yeah, he's supposed to be this offensive guru. Their offense really just isn't that great. The running game's awful. It's really inconsistent when they score points. Yeah, they're in the middle of the pack for our offense. I think they're 12th or 15th in scoring. But their defense, I looked it up today. They're literally dead last. They're 32nd in points allowed, and their Pro Football Focus ranking is 32nd. So this man literally doesn't know how to coach defense. they've got some good pieces on defense, but I just think that they've given him enough time to try to figure it out with Kyler Murray. It started off really good. It looked promising with their offense and with Kyler, showing progression, but now they're 4-8. Like, where do you go from here? You got to go in a new direction.
Tyler, I would say to add on, you made a bunch of very good points. And to add on, I would say Cliff Kingsbury was more unqualified to get a head coaching job in the NFL.
I agree. He
Jeff
wasn't.
Saturday
It was just a stupid signing.
He was literally Jeff Saturday's more qualified as him as a head coach in 2 games. I don't know how Cliff Kingsbury got a job. He got fired from Texas Tech while Patrick Mahomes was his head coach.
It was all the intrigue of his
was quarterback
wizardry.
He had no offensive wizardry. He had Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, I just don't get it. I don't get how he got a job. He had Patrick Mahomes in college. He did nothing with him.
And still
Mahomes got drafted, and then here we are with him having a job and the Cardinals being a train wreck. So, Tyler, good points. Stally.
So the person that's in the hot seat, let's be honest, they were brought to Houston in a time of turmoil. The guy was in the league for 30-plus years. And it's not Dusty Baker, who meets that criteria, ended up managing the Astros for a World Series win, but instead is Lovie Smith. A lot of parallels, a lot of different results.
He's got a nice beard, though.
He's got a great beard. When his beard is in full force, I loved it when he grew it out when he was coaching at Illinois in
he looks great.
NCAA football. But let's be honest, you can't put too much blame on Lovie Smith. The Texans organization is kind of trash, but he's not the short-term solution, and he's not the long-term solution. They just need to get rid of him. And the Houston Texans, for the last couple of years, have had interest in hiring Josh McCown. I don't know why they haven't.
McCown?
Yep, they've been very interested in Josh McCown. So I think it's time to pull Lovie Smith off of life support and try something new, maybe more of a long-term approach. So that's my coach in the hot seat.
Yeah, it's tough. If he's got a GOAT quarterback, Davis Mills, he should be performing with that man. Also, Kyle Allen,
What good? I mean, honestly, guys, this has just been a great episode. We got 4 great-looking guys that are just delivering some great content and making some fantastic points. And what I'll say is, it's been a great year in the NFL. It really has. Competition's unlike no other.
No, it hasn't.
There's been. I will say that there has been some excitement. There has been. I love what we were seeing
historically the worst season in terms of points.
Yeah, but it's been fun. There are some teams that have been bad that are actually doing a lot better this year. You could take bright spots out of most teams this year, besides maybe the Texans.
I see where you stand now, Max. Packers at 4-8, and you're saying it's such a successful season. I see.
Not for the Packers, but I love. Good for Trevor Lawrence getting that W yesterday. That was fun to see. Jaguars are trending upwards. The Giants are trending upwards. The Jets are trending upwards. There's a lot of teams that have been bottom dwellers in this league for quite some time that are actually starting to pick up the pace and move in the right direction. But with that being said, we're closing down our pod today with a top 5. And we haven't been doing top 5s every week, but we have another top 5 this week. Top 5 places we'd like to travel or
travel bucket list
places, whatever. And I think it might be a little bit of a difference between kind of where we're going with this. I'm kind of more doing generic places. I mean, there's a lot of places in the world. I'm kind of just going generic ideas of places that I'd like to go. That's kind of the way I've looked at it. Can we all be in agreement on that? We don't need to get into the nitty-gritties of cities and all that stuff.
Man, I got my stuff. Everyone just has their own stuff that they want to do.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not changing my list.
Is there anybody that's feeling ambitious and wants to start?
Let's let our guest of honor go first.
I'm ambitious.
Wait. We need one quick segment. We got to talk soccer. Congratulations to USA beating Iran. Good job, fellas. We made it to the round of 16.
I'm
knocking on wood.
They haven't played yet. You fuck.
For context, it's 12:45 on Tuesday afternoon.
15 minutes.
They kick off in about 15 minutes. I'm terrified. I don't know about you all, but
Yeah, it's
confident.
Yeah. Go Packers or go USA. All right. Anyway, go ahead, Sam. Kick us off.
All right.
Top 5. Let's get her rolling.
On the topic of the World Cup, number 5 on my list, which I can happily say I will check off this list in 4 years, is to attend the World Cup. Coming to the United States in 2026, and I could not be more thrilled. I think it's just an absolute spectacle. It's the coolest sporting event in the world. And I'm excited that I believe Kansas City is the closest site to Wisconsin. So I may find myself in Kansas City yet again in 4 years' time, but looking forward to that. Number 4, staying on the trend of sports for this one as well, is going to be witnessing a Packers Super Bowl in person. Ideally, this would be hosted at Lambeau Field. The odds of that are very slim, but that's been on my bucket list for as long as I can remember. Number 3, I would like to ride an elephant in the African safari. And if that's probably going to be the toughest one to check off this list, but I think Africa would be quite a cool place to visit. And if you're there, have to do a safari. And if I'm on a safari, I might as well be riding the elephant. So going to be a puzzle to figure out how we're going to make that one work, but it comes in at number 3 on my list. Number 2, and I'm realizing that none of these are actually specific places, so I apologize.
Okay.
But
No,
it's a bucket list nonetheless.
I did a bucket. I did the same thing you're doing, Sam.
Perfect. Number 2, we're sticking with the trend of animals, and I would love to swim with some dolphins. I want to be sitting in the middle of the ocean and have dolphins jumping over me from left and right. I think that would be the most surreal experience ever. And finally, clocking at number 1, I would love to skydive straight out of an airplane from a few thousand feet in the air.
I've done it. It's great.
Yeah, my mother will not be too excited if and when that one happens.
It's less dangerous than driving your car every day.
Exactly. That's what I try to tell her. So skydiving, number 1. That one would be absolutely surreal. So there's my 5.
All right.
I'll go second. I'll just send it. Again, I kind of worked up a top 5 bucket list as well in general. So my number 5, golf in Ireland. As you can tell, I am a very Irish human being. I do have plans to go with my beautiful girlfriend to Ireland sooner than later, whether that's next summer or the following summer. We are still ironing out those details. But I have talked to the Stever, Samuel's father, and I have a couple places in Ireland that I would really like to play golf. The golf over there is absolutely gorgeous, and it's not your ideal necessarily that you'd think of golf, right? It's like going to be windy. It's going to be maybe a little drizzly, but it's the experience of going to golf in Ireland, some of the most beautiful, pristine golf courses in the entire world. And that is just something that I have on my list that I would really love to do and tackle, that I've had on there for a while. Number 4, African safari. I've wanted to go to Africa for quite some time, whether that be Kenya or Tanzania or wherever it might be.
Hey,
I would love to. Love to go over there for
2024.
2024. Yep, I would love to go over there for African safari and experience that. Number 3, I would love to go watch the Masters in Augusta. I want to be there. I want to experience the golfers walking down the 18th tee. And I want to see a playoff hole at the Masters like nobody else. I would absolutely love that, and that would be just incredible. The price to go to the Masters is absolutely mind-boggling. I could not believe it when I saw it, but it's a lot of money. Anyway, number 2, the Egyptian pyramid. I want to go to see the Egyptian pyramids. I want to hike around there. I want to ride a camel around them. It would be so freaking cool. But yeah, the Egyptian pyramids is something that's really cool. And to go with skydiving, I actually know somebody who parachuted over skydiving the Egyptian pyramids. So some really, really cool stuff. That
I know you would love to.
I would never skydive. But the last thing, and number 1, I want to witness a Milwaukee Brewers World Series at American Family Field. I don't know if I'll be able to do that in my lifetime. I sure to God hope that I will. Baseball is my love. Baseball is my passion. I want the Brewers to make it to the World Series, and I want to witness a World Series at AmFam Field. Who's up next?
I can get on board with that one.
I'll go next. This one's really random. I'm going to be giving an honorable mention, but for some reason I've always really wanted to participate in a flash mob in like the subways of New York City. Really random. I don't know why. I just think that'd be so fun. Just coordinated dance. Everyone's confused as fuck. But number 5, I want to camp in the Patagonia and just backpack for a couple weeks there. It's so fucking beautiful. I don't know if you guys have seen pictures of the Patagonia in Chile and Argentina.
I have a Patagonia jacket.
Hey, that's something. Number 4, I want to swim with sharks, do a shark cage dive in South Africa. I think that would be just invigorating and just get the adrenaline pumping. I'm terrified of sharks, so I want to challenge myself. I think that would be really fun, but also terrifying at the same time. Number 3, I have always talked about doing this with my dad. We always wanted to walk the whole Great Wall of China. I don't know how possible that is, but I think that'd be really cool. At least go there, but see how long it is. Maybe walk the whole thing. I don't know.
Do you know how long is how
Here,
long?
Why don't you look
take?
it up while I'm doing my other 2? Probably too long. Number 2, I want to summit Everest. I think that would I just think summiting Everest would be one of like the coolest accomplishments you can do in your life, even though it's incredibly hard. I'm sure it's just fucking beautiful up there, and just all the elements combined, and how many like months you have to train for it. It's really high on my list. And then lastly, number 1, it's going to happen. I'm climbing Kilimanjaro in 2024. So excited to experience all the different climates and everything that Kilimanjaro has to provide. The beauty, try to hit safari while I'm out there, see the nature. So that's my number 1.
Awesome. Good job, Sally. That's a good one. All right, Stally. Let's close it on, Stally, Mike.
General places that I think would be very interesting to visit across the world. So number 5, I'm going to go with good old Pakistan. They have some really cool places that I like to visit, like the Shalimar Gardens. There's a really cool national park called Deosai. They're like high plateau mountains and whatnot. They have some interesting salt mines, and just taking a look at the mosques there. So Pakistan, 40% of the world's soccer balls are made in a city called Salkat. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Interesting.
Number 4, I'm going to go with the Democratic Republic of Congo. So the Democratic Republic of Congo has some great cathedrals that I want to visit. The Congo River is actually the deepest river in the world. That's like 200.
I actually do want a whitewater raft there. I heard it's actually great, a whitewater raft.
That would be awesome. A little fun fact is that all of the locals, they eat mayo with any kind of food. So I'd be interested to see how many applications for mayo you can find there. Number 3, I'm going to go with the largest country in Africa, Sudan. They have the pyramids of Meroe, which rival the pyramids in Egypt. They also have the Red Sea, which is just a great historical kind of site to be at. Sudan, they have 1 doctor per 10,000 people. So they got to improve a little bit there, but, you know, it would be really interesting. Number 2, I'm actually going to go with Somalia. Somalia, they have some really cool outdoor markets that I want to visit, like the Bakara markets in Mogadishu. And they also have one of the world's oldest cave paintings called the Lias Gael. I butchered that, but they're estimated to be from 5 to 11,000 years old. Little fun fact about Somalia is that they have the lowest life expectancy in the world at about 55 years old. So you only live.
Is that a joke about wanting to go to see Somalia?
Okay, this
like
is
one of the
clearly
most.
a joke.
Can you just let me finish?
Okay.
Max, you haven't
I
caught
really
on.
want to visit these places. They're really intriguing to me. And then finally, I think it would be awesome to go to Kim Tu-sung Square in North Korea. I'd also love to visit the Pyongyang Metro. It's a great metro system that they have in North Korea. They also have a really cool hotels. And it would be awesome to visit the DMZ, the demilitarized zone. That's just got a lot of history and culture to it. A lot of great world leaders meeting there and just iconic. Fun fact about North Korea, they only have 3 TV channels and 28 internet websites. So that tops off my top 5 bucket list places to go to in the world.
Beautiful. Well, Michael, I'm happy that you had such incredible places to go visit. There's a lot of world out there to see, fellas. So make sure that we go out there and experience all the beautiful places in the world. Like
I also figured out how long the Great Wall of China is. I'm not going to be walking the whole thing. It's a little over 13,000 miles. So that is out.
I read an 18-month time frame to walk the entire track there. So, although that sounds safer than entering North Korea, so you got that going for you.
Or Somalia. You will die. So anyway, thank you all. Samuel, a special thanks to you for coming on the pod. You were absolutely spectacular with beautiful insight into everything that's going on and a beautiful melon. If I do,
I appreciate that.
Myself.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Next time, because I do expect to make an appearance again, I'll be sure not to disconnect 5 minutes into the call, and I will not.
Yeah, you were a lot
what was that?
disconnected.
Defensive coordinator.
What were
You
you doing then?
definitely you disconnected,
You
and
were
you were
stroking under
still
the pressure
a million
like
times
you
better
know.
than Sam Hoffman.
Well, that goes without saying.
But anyway, thank you, everybody. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow. Thank you for all the views. Thank you for all the following. And Tyler, you want to
Good episode, boys. Let's let it roll. Hot out.